Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast, your ultimate path to holistic health, wellness, and success. Discover the powerful fusion of Eastern wisdom and Western science, designed to balance your mind, body, and spirit. Our channel brings you holistic wellness practices, effective strategies to boost productivity, and insights on stress reduction and active aging. Join our global community and transform your life with holistic wellness. Cheers to a healthier, happier you.
Welcome back to the Masters of Wellness podcast. And thank you so much for all of our viewers who have logged in and subscribed to our channel over the last couple of weeks. We're starting to build up momentum and getting some great feedback and some great comments from people. Chuck, just a quick highlight of your last week since we last chatted. What would you like to share?
Just a lot of evolution, continued evolution. I've been able to integrate really well, continue to integrate really well, thanks to the help of our special guest today. And I am so excited for you all to get a behind the scenes look of what it would be like to be able to integrate, hear what this beautiful soul has to say about all the aspects of plant medicine, but also how to integrate back into life so that way you can take all the lessons from the medicine that teaches you and implement that into improving the life that you're living. And for me, it has been pretty instrumental. I have had some amazing groundbreaking moments this week, of aha moments. Of the best way I can explain it for me is to say the knowing that I went into of doing the medicine, the desire for knowing, it's continuing to evolve every single time I meditate now. I'm getting downloads, if you want to call it. They call them. You'll hear people that do plant medicine talk about downloads all the time. I've always wondered what those were. Right? Are they seeing stuff? Most of the time, these are just profound thoughts that most people will communicate to others or explain it to others as someone told them something. God spoke to them. The medicine spoke to them. You hear things in your head that are like, whoa, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. And I was meditating yesterday with Hape, and which really helps me get centered. And I heard this profound thought in my head that said, you don't need to take actions, you just need to participate in life. And I was like, man, like as I'm hearing this in my head, I'm like, that's really good. Like, I just need to participate. I don't need to like go do and get shit done. I just need to participate in this beautiful thing called life. So that's what led me to making that post, and we'll put that post down below. So maybe you can save that and remind yourself about that, because that was just one of the big aha moments that, because I've always been the kind of guy that has just let's go get shit done. Like, okay, I'll meditate. And then when I wake up from meditation, it's like, okay, time to get shit done. And that's just not a very healthy way of thinking about things, right? Get shit done, right? Like, think about that. Shit. I'm doing shit. I don't like just the word itself, and words have power now. And I'm understanding that. No, participate in this beautiful thing called life. And whatever happens, have no expectations. That was one of the big messages I had, Ken, from my ayahuasca ceremony is, man, do I have expectations about every little thing. Mm-hmm. And it's continuing to pop in my head in that form of downloads that expectations do not have any. You can't have any, because that's not you participating in life. Instead of expectations, have passion. So I've had a really good week of continuing to evolve while also participating in life.
Now, today is this very, very powerful episode. People that watched last week, I'm giggling when I think about it. It was quite an entertaining show. Some golden nuggets there, so to speak. Pardon the pun. That was shared. Please, with Kate. Please go back and watch that episode. But one of the things that Kate shared with us was some of the challenges that she was facing with integrating back into work and her life and her family and things like that. Like, not everyone can understand the journey that people have been through. Something that, Chuck, you have highlighted over the last few weeks is that somebody and some people have helped you immensely to be able to get back into not only your role as a father and a husband and a business owner, but to work out how to make the most of your experience and your journey and turn it into something that becomes more meaningful in your life. And Ken, our very, very special guest today, is a person who has been integral to helping you to do that. So Chuck, maybe just a quick intro from you. How has Ken helped you so far over the last few weeks? And then we're going to let Ken have his say and share his amazing story with us.
Yeah, it's Ken, without you maybe even knowing it, because I've been joining his weekly integration with love calls, Zoom meetings while cutting the grass or while doing something else. Yesterday, for maybe the second time in a month, I chimed in and spoke and shared some things. But you provide such a warming opportunity. The space is probably the best way of saying it, to hear other people, because we all I think you said it once in one of your integration calls. When you hear other people sharing their stories, their struggles, what they're going through, to maybe most of the time to try to get your advice, but also the advice of other people in the room who have learned lessons and can give feedback. We all sit there and hear it and listen, and we think, it's not me, it's somebody else. And this is how she may be, or he may be able to think about it differently to improve. And you start breaking down how that person can get through that. But ultimately, when you're doing that, it actually is you. And when you're helping others in your mind get through things, you're actually helping yourself get through that. And you're like so many stories that are being shared every single week have nothing to do with me and are completely different scenarios. But then when Ken chimes in and says, you might want to maybe think about it this way, right? Or ask questions that are more profound and has them think through some things. You, as a listener, are thinking, man, that really relates to me. I could benefit from thinking about things that way too. So it's just constantly working on the muscle in your head, which is probably the most important muscle in our body, our brain. And it's putting information in there. It's consuming the information that's allowing people, myself, people that are in this group, to have a stronger mind. And it's a space for us to do that. And Ken, I'm so glad you decided a long, long time ago to create integration with love. I hope that people that have participated in any plant medicines, that will participate in plant medicines, find you, and can even do this beforehand, because you're going to talk about the benefit of integrating beforehand too. So with all that, that's my introduction to Ken. He's been amazing for me, and I'm so glad that the Sacred Vine has referred me to him.
Viewers and listeners, we're going to drop it down a gear now. I had a little bit of a chat with Ken before we started today and realized the depth of this gentleman's capacity for emotional intelligence and feeling love and wanting to help people is absolutely incredible. So Ken, I'm just going to hand over the floor to you. Please just share your story with us and tell us about your journey.
Okay, well, thank you. And when you was talking about, Chuck, when you was talking about getting shit done and participating, it reminds me of a quote by Alan Watts, and he says, "Nobody tells a flower when to bloom. It just unfolds." And I think if we can learn to just let life unfold, that doesn't mean we can't have goals and set intentions, but we can't get attached to the hows. How many times do we set up? I was like you. I was a goal setter. I listened to Zig Ziglar and all of these positive goal setting and positive thinking kind of guys. I found in 2010, I lived in the world of the egoic mind. I thought the mind was the most powerful thing in the universe. And if we set our mind to something, we could create anything. And so in 2010, one of my friends came to my house, knocked on the door, came in and said, "Hey man, have you ever heard of DMT?" I said, "No, what is it?" And so he said, "Well, you ought to check it out." And so I did. It's described sometimes. All right, so what is DMT? In 1990, from 1990 to 1995, at the University of New Mexico Medical School, they studied the molecule dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine is a naturally occurring substance. Its presence in the brain of all mammals and almost all living organisms on this planet have DMT or something similar to DMT. And that similar is in psilocybin mushrooms. And there is very, very little difference in the two molecules. If you look at them, they're almost identical. So they asked the guy who headed up the experiments at the end. He did a podcast and interviewed him. Said, "What is dimethyltryptamine?" He said, "Well, I'm a man of science," and he said, "I can't prove what it is, so I can't tell you what it is." But he said, "What do you think it is?" And he says, "Well, I think it's the molecule that spirit uses to incorporate into the physical world." Shit. What do you do with that? So my very first journey at the school, they believe that dimethyltryptamine is released at 3 times in our lives naturally.
Oh.
They believe it's when we're born, when we dream, and when we die. Now, when they injected people with too much dimethyltryptamine, they forgot everything. They didn't remember anything about it. And so the theory came up that dimethyltryptamine is released when we're born, so we forget who we are. And we come here, we have a authentic, genuine human experience.
Mm.
When we're dreaming, to set the spirit free, because this physical world is heavy on spirit. And third, when we die, so we don't miss this. So they believe it's responsible for near-death experience. And I will tell you, that was my first journey, was a full-on near-death experience.
Really?
You hear a near-death experience, right? And they talk about the tunnel of light, right? And for whatever reason, I always had this impression that you meander down this little tunnel of light, all fuzzy and warm and nice and all that. But with dimethyltryptamine, you shoot through that tunnel of light like a rocket ship. You're going as fast as it seems like the speed of light. The light that's coming toward you at the end of that tunnel, there's a light. The light stretches out because you're going so fast toward it that it seems that it's stretching the light out. And boom, I end up in this other world. And it was unlike anything. It's not earthly in any way whatsoever. And there were other beings there. Some of them were doing their thing somewhere else. They were just there and whatever. Some were focusing their attention on me. And I had this feeling that there was 4 female entities that was cradling me like a mother and a child. Remember, this is 2000, so 15 years ago. And I may start to cry about this as I tell the story, because it affected me so deeply. DMT, the experience, when you smoke DMT, it only lasts 10 or 15 minutes, really. And so you could feel yourself coming back, or I could feel myself coming back online. I said to the beings, I said, no, let me stay. I want to know more. I want to see more. And they kind of let go of me and they separated like that. And they circled around me, kind of like a ring around the rosy. They started singing and they sang, God is all, God is all. There is no more to know. There is no more to see. And I said, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? And they said, get to know more people. And so that's what started my journey. I was lost. As a child, I was raised in a fundamental Christian speaking in tongues kind of religion. And I had stepped away from that and had no room for that in my life. I was a really hardcore agnostic and I didn't believe in anything. That all changed on that day, April 13th, 2010. So the foundation, everything, the day after my first journey, this was a very helpful thing to me. Somebody handed me the book called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. That book echoed almost everything that I had experienced in that journey. And it put it into words. And that's the thing. You see, the rational mind understands rational things. That experience is beyond the rational mind. So it's very difficult, even if you do translate it and you do put it into words, it's not the experience. It's just words that represent something, and the words can represent one thing to one person. So it's not the experience itself. So after reading that book, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was lost. And so from April to December, I had read 30 books on spirituality. I read quantum physics books, which quantum physics is kind of starting to point in that same direction. I don't know if you know about the dual slit experiment, but somehow our consciousness, the act of the observer being present, affects the outcome of the experience. If it's observed, it behaves one way. If it's not observed, it behaves another way. So there's something about the observer and creating the reality around us. And that's something that I've learned is you are the creator of your reality. Through your thoughts, beliefs, and actions, you create your reality. And I struggled so hard, so bad, and I was so lost and confused that I made the decision that I wanted to create in 2000. This was 2010 when it started. By 2012, I had decided I wanted to create a space where people could immerse themselves. Because one of the sad things, I think, is I see it happen all the time. SoulQuest was one of those places. I joined SoulQuest in 2015. SoulQuest was SoulQuest Church of Mother Ayahuasca. They ran about 19,000 people. 2000 when they formed. I joined immediately when they formed, as soon as I heard about it, because I believe in the right of people to explore consciousness. And so when I joined the church, they ran 19,000 some odd people through their facilities. And I worked with people. I became an integration coach through, it's called Being True to You. And I became an integration coach. I worked with people pre-ceremony and I worked with people after the ceremony. And I can tell you what the medicine does is it opens the doors to perception. It gives you these insights. But if you don't incorporate those insights into your life, eventually that will become a distant memory and nothing changes in your life. So it's that process of taking those insights and incorporating them into your life and making changes. People always ask me, well, I had this profound, what do I do? And I say, well, I don't know what you do. I have no clue what you do. But I tell you what you don't do. Don't go back and start doing the same shit you've been doing all your life, because you're going to get the same results. So do something that you love. And one of the sad things I think for people is they go into this profound experience and then they come out and they don't know what to do. They're lost. They're confused. And so integration is the process of taking those insights and doing something with them. And I think one of the most important questions any of us can ask ourselves, and if you're getting ready to go into a journey, I love this. You can't go in having expectations. Don't have an expectations. Don't, because your journey is unique to you. You got here. Each one of us, we're all connected to the human condition. We've all felt pain. We've felt loss, suffering, love, joy. We've all felt these feelings. But the journey that got us to those emotions is different for every one of us. Your story's never been told quite the way you tell it. In Conversations with God, he talks about that through you, your experience has never been had before. Your story has never been told before. And who are you telling that story to? You know, the mind is always churning. But who is it really talking to? I think that force that's inside of you, and this is the most important question, deep down, far in, Alan Watts says this, deep down and far in, who are you? And I believe, and this freaks a lot of people out, I'm God. I'm God, you're God, and the trees are God, the birds are God, and everything else out there is the creator, experiencing creation through your story. You tell the creator what this is. Hot day, a cold day. This guy over here is an asshole. This guy over here's all right. I like them. They're sweet. This is that. It's all a story. It's a beautiful, beautiful story that we create about what creation is all about. And you're free to create whatever story you choose to create. I tell a story in integration a lot of times about a man who had been sick and he'd been in the hospital and he almost died. He was almost dead. He missed so much work, and he was, after he got out of the hospital, he was always late for work because he had to go to different doctor's appointments. His house was in foreclosure and his car was going to be repossessed, and if he didn't pay his electric that week, they were going to turn off his electric. So as he's leaving work, his boss calls him over and says, "Hey man, I gotta talk to you." He said, "Look, they called me up in the front office today and they're complaining that things aren't getting done around here and they're threatening to let me go." And he said, "I can't do my job and your job. I've done everything I can to cover for you. If you're late one more time, I'm going to have to let you go." So the guy gets up a half hour early the next day, jumps in his car at 5:30 in the morning, and he turns the key. Nothing won't start. Damn! So he goes and he finds a neighbor, wakes him up. They get the jumper cables, they get it hooked up. He gets the car started. He looks at his watch. He's 5 minutes behind. So he's driving down the road and he says, "If I hurry, if I don't get caught in too many red lights," he said, "maybe I'll make it." And so he sees up ahead of him, the light changes to yellow and he says, I can't stop. I got to go. It changes to red and he blasts through the intersection. And when he does that, a car pulls out, hits him in the side. It spins his car around. He hits a curb. It rolls over upside down in a ditch. And he crawls out of the broken window and he falls down on the ground and he's crying, "This is the worst day of my life. Cheated death. And now I've lost everything." And it was the worst day of his life. But now that same guy on that same day in exactly that same situation, in that same accident, he rolls the car over and he crawls out of the broken window and he falls down on the ground and he's crying hysterically and he says, "This is the best day of my life. I'm alive." And it was. What's going on in the world around you has very little to do with your personal reality. It's the story you tell yourself about your personal reality that creates your reality. So that was very, very powerful for me. So that's the key right there. We think that we know what's going on, but everything that we think we know is filtered through this thing, our experiences and our genetics, the country that we grew up in, and all these things that was given to us throughout time. Ayahuasca and DMT and mushrooms, they have a way of making you want to question all of those beliefs. Now, those beliefs, most of them, a lot of the most core fundamental beliefs was given to us by first our parents. You're a little baby, you're born. There's no voice. There's no voice in your head. You just either content or you're not content. But you're not sitting there bitching at your mom inside your head about her not giving your bottle and changing your diaper because you're wet. You're just there. But then you learn mama, daddy, bottle, diaper, brother, sister. You got a word for everything in your life. One day they come up to you and go, "Bad boy, good boys don't do that." And when that happens, the judge is born in your head. And it begins to judge everyone and everything that it comes in contact with. And the one that it judges most harshly is you. So you soon forget that you existed before there was a voice. And we all think that we're that collection of thoughts. But I would suggest look a little deeper. You're not the storyteller. You're the one that the story's being told to. That changed my life. Now, we'll fast forward a little bit. In 2012, I had decided by then that I wanted to create a place where people could go, because you go to these experiences and you go Friday, Saturday, and on Monday you're sitting back at your desk in the real world and you've got all this profound, life-changing shit going inside of your head, and nobody can understand you. And if you try to tell people what you just experienced, they'll look at you like you're crazy and they'll say they did too many drugs. And so you can't really go and talk to people about it. So what do? And unless you have something like integrating with love, you're kind of lost and you're alone. And that's one of our big problems in our society, is the lack. We no longer live in our little tribes. Human beings are social creatures. We need one another. And I don't care who you are. People say, "Oh, I don't care what people think." But yes, you do. You care what people think. We all would rather be liked than disliked. And I think that's a primal thing, because when we were cavemen, If we got isolated, if we got shunned by our tribe, that was probably death. So all of our ancestors was really good at getting along with other tribe members. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money at all to try to create an integration center, but that was what's on my heart. But I had money for vacations. So in 2012, me and my wife started taking our vacations. We looked around. I wanted to find a place where you didn't need heat, you didn't need air conditioning, you could grow your own food, mild climates, And so we looked at Belize and we looked at Costa Rica, we looked at Panama, and we decided Costa Rica because their infrastructure's better than anywhere in South America and Central America. So we started taking vacations and we went down to Costa Rica and we traveled from the north end of Costa Rica all the way to the south. And when we got all the way down to the south, we was on the coast near a place called Pavones and decided, let's go up into the mountains. So we drove 2 hours up into the mountains and we found this place that's called San Vito, Costa Rica. And that's the place. I don't know why. We just decided that's the place. And so that was in November or October and December. My wife said, you go back down there and you find us a place. And so that's what I did. I went back down and we still didn't have any money. We still did not have the money to buy a place. This goes back to your participation thing and quit trying to force shit, So I didn't have the money. I didn't know why I was doing it, but I went back down and I stepped onto this old coffee farm, 7.5 acres and this part of Costa Rica is the coffee growing region of the country. And so coffee was gone and it was just a blank field. And so I said, yeah, this is the spot. This is it. And my wife said, well, if that's it, then see what you can do. So I talked to the guy and he wanted I didn't have $54,000. So I went home and that was and then December. In January, my wife got the largest bonus that she had ever gotten. It's beautiful. We took out a loan on a 401k and we bought that piece of property. But we didn't have any more money then. So there was a piece of land. We had the spot, but we didn't have any way to develop it. So the first year, there was a reforestation project by the government that we got 400 trees and we planted 400 trees. We built trails around the property, ways to get around down. We had a river, and you could hear the river on the edge of the property. That was my property line. And it was just so loud. And I said to the guys before I bought the property, I said, is there a waterfall or something down there? And they said, no, there's no waterfall down there. I said, oh, okay. So there was no way to get down to that waterfall, down to the river. So one day we made a trek and we had my wife, my daughter, some friends, and it was like 8 of us. And it took us 2.5 hours to go from the bottom of our property up along the river to the top. And when we got to the top of the property, we found a waterfall there. And so we built trails to get down there and make it easy access and that kind of stuff like that. Step by step by step, we started doing things. I told you I did the Zig Ziglar and all those guys, planning and making goals and trying to do all these things. So I couldn't build a house. I couldn't do anything. But I do AutoCAD, I do some drawings and stuff like that. So I started designing possible houses, how I was going to do it. And those changed over the years. All those plans changed. But I guarantee you there's a drawing right now of my house that was done years before it was ever built. I didn't have the money to do it, but I knew I would need tiles for the floor one day, right? So me and my wife, we go to Home Depot. Yeah, we like this one, like that one. So we started picking out all these things. Yeah, we're going to have this. And everybody I knew, I would tell everybody I'm doing this. I didn't say I want to do it because a want don't make a shit in this world. A want don't make a shit. There are billions of wants on this planet every single second of the day. And the universe looks at a want and says, oh, isn't that cute? He wants it. There's a want. Every once in a while, somebody says, doing. There's something very important about doing. Somebody has to move some molecules in order for anything to happen on this planet. So I started drawing. I go to Home Depot. I'm doing, and I'm telling everybody I'm doing this. There's so many things to get from point A to point B. Some of those things you can't do right now. There's a lot of them that you can. Do them. Do them. And you'll turn around a couple of years later and you look back and look how much shit you've already gotten done. Because I believe what happens is if you want something, the universe looks at it and says, that's just, oh, you're the creator. You don't have to want for anything. You're the creator. So start doing. And don't get so hung up on this is how it's got to be. Because I guarantee you, I would have wasted thousands of dollars if I'd have jumped in there and started doing the way I originally planned it. Like the flower, it just unfolds at exactly the right time, the way it's supposed to. So right now, in February, first of all, we built a caretaker's house. A few years later, we built a caretaker's house. A few years later, we was able to build our house. Then we started building cabins. I have 3 cabins, and then I have another room. We're getting ready to build a bunkhouse for volunteers to stay in. But in February, we had our first, we call it steering committee. It's people from Integrating with Love that's been with me for a few years. They came down because I never concentrated on what am I going to do with this place now? What are we going to actually teach? What are we actually going to do? I have no clue. But here I have this damn place. It's kind of like that Field of Dreams thing. You know, build it and they will come, right? And so they came down and we developed our itinerary or our lesson plan or whatever you want to call it. So we're hoping to bring our first real group down in February of 26. And that's what we're going to do. And that's my story.
Ken, that's amazing. I got a couple questions on Costa Rica.
Mhm.
You mentioned the profound emotional story of how you came to the money or how the money was created by you to buy the property. But how about everything else? I mean, the trees, that was created by you, given essentially you didn't know the government was going to be doing that.
No.
But how about the cabins? How about the houses? Where did you manifest this, if that's the right way of saying it, the money for that?
Well, as years passed, we did better and better. We started making a little bit more money and started, when you're young and you're starting out, you have so many things to buy. You got to take care of those kids. You got we had our kids in private schools, and so all that. But as the years passed, those expenses started. We was able to save a little bit more money. One year we brought in the electric. Another year we brought in the water. So it was little things, step by step. The cabins, they cost me $12,000 each. It wasn't a huge expense. And so that's where we put our money. We put our money, anytime we had extra money, we put it into developing our land in Costa Rica. And so it just step by step magically unfolded. I never gave up on the dream, but I never became attached to how it has to happen. We sometimes get in our own damn way. And it's got to be this way. It's got to be this way. It's got to be this way. But maybe it don't.
Ken, this is how many years in the making now? It sounds like over 10?
15.
15?
15 years.
So that takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of, to me, maybe it's described, I would describe it if I was that person as like just a really deep belief that that this is what you're supposed to be doing. How many times through the 15 years, did you have to remind yourself that this is what you wanted to do? Stop sitting there trying to calculate how you're going to make money out of this,
I never intended to make money off of it. It's never been a thing about money. In fact, that's what Integrating with Love's all about. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to free integration to everyone. I'm not looking to make money. I'm looking to change lives. I'm looking to change the world. And you do that one life at a time. You make a difference in one person's life. And we never know how that's going to ripple out into the world. So I just kept going. I never gave up hope. I never quit. And I think if we look at our lives, we'll see this. How many things in your life that you said, I'm doing this. You either achieved it or you gave up. You changed your mind and you did something else.
And those things that I can think about that I passionately said, I'm doing this, I did them all,
Yeah, exactly.
except for being a professional baseball player.
But you kind of gave up on that, though, right?
I did.
You gave up on that. You decided to do something else. You put your attention. That was another journey that I had. They told me, the beings, they said to me, you are the attention, the power that focuses the mind. You're not your mind. You're the power that focuses the mind. So, look, we can walk out in my backyard right now and we can get down on our hands and knees and we can take 1 square yard of ground and we can look at that piece of ground and we can find 100 beautiful things in that little piece of ground. Or we can find 100 ugly things. Our mind is a tool. It will go out and find things that you believe. And it'll reject the things that you don't believe in. And then what it'll say, if it finds something that doesn't agree with what you think and what you believe in, it'll say, oh, that don't count because of this or that or whatever. It'll just totally disregard that.
How would you describe the aspect of 15 years ago? This wasn't your idea. This is what you felt called to do. So how do you describe understanding the difference between your ideas and what you maybe be getting messages from a higher power or whatever we want to call that? But many people probably get good ideas and they dismiss that. Their ego dismisses that as, oh, you can achieve that. They get out in their own way. Stinky thinking. Walk us through that from a society standpoint for anybody else that is feeling called to do something. How can they just have that deep knowing, deep power of belief that this is the direction they're going? Because that's 15 years of direction that I can't imagine. At one point, did you feel like you needed to do something else?
No, never gave. I believe that our egoic mind deals in words. That's all it knows. That's all it knows. And they've done some research on the little babies, I saw this on CNN actually. We don't remember anything from our infancy, right? So why? And what they believe is we don't have words. And because we don't have words, we don't have a way to file these memories. The memories are there, we just don't have access to them because we don't have a word to explain them. So there's a big difference between a thought and a knowing. That knowingness, and that's what happens with ayahuasca and DMT and mushrooms. You come to this place of knowing. It's experiential. Terence McKenna says, don't believe anything that anybody tells you. What have you experienced? I experienced profound oneness. There is beauty everywhere, if we look for it. And at the same time, there's sadness. What are you going to focus on? Where are you going to put your attention?
So, Ken, you have an incredible ability to feel. I wouldn't even say feel emotion, but let's just say you're feeling energy everywhere. You decided to create this project with the intention that you wanted to help other people. When you see people coming through their journeys of plant medicine, the retreats, and so on, at what point are you meeting them? Like, are you looking at traumatized souls that have been awakened and they need guidance to know what to do with it? Or are you seeing people that have been completely enlightened and have transcended to a level where they can understand what your purpose is?
You see, I think we all know. We all know. We've forgotten. I don't have answers for anybody else. I can't give you just like I said, what should I do now? Well, I don't know what you should do. Do something you love. If you like to paint, paint. You like to walk in nature, walk in nature. You like to dance, dance. You like to journal, journal. Do something that you love. The universe will bring this shit. That's what I think happens is that wants don't matter. But once you start to the doing process, the universe looks at it in a different way. And it begins to bring the resources that you need to achieve it to you. Now, I don't consider myself enlightened. I don't even know what that is, really. I'm not enlightened. I'm not enlightened. I'm just the same as everybody else. And I get caught up in my dramas and my stories too. Today, my dramas are much shorter lived because I catch myself. I catch the thought. That's the key right there, is you have to become aware of the thoughts in your head. What am I telling myself right now in this moment? What am I telling myself? And then you catch that thought. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're never going to achieve that. Whoa, whoa. I caught the thought. Now I say, is that true? Is there any possible way that might not be true? And the answer to that question is always yes. I could possibly be wrong. So now, if I possibly could be wrong, then I've taken a little bit of sting out of that original thought because I've admitted to myself that I could possibly be wrong. Now what? Well, can I create a story, a believable story, in a way that I could explain how I'm wrong, and I could explain it in another way? And if you give your mind that task, you can invent another story that's just as believable, if not more believable, than the original one. Now you're free from that. You're free from that story. So all I do, I don't have answers for anybody else. You have the answers. And all I can do is remind you. And that's what our integration process is all about, is reminding you are not your thoughts. You're not your thought. If you believe you are this physical form, or if you believe you are those thoughts in your head, then you're always going to be a prisoner to them. You're not that. You're the infinite. So you have your own answers.
Having worked with many people as a professional coach and fitness trainer since the beginning of my career, I found that my true value was not knowing the anatomy and physiology of the body and what exercises to do and how to build muscle and how to lose weight. Most people were coming to spend time with me because they wanted someone to talk to, they wanted someone who would listen, and they wanted a way to express negative energy out of their body and to empower themselves with something that made them feel better. There's obviously a lot of science that explores the benefits of movement and the physiological response and the mental response to movement and exercise. But I remember one of my clients one day showed up to class crying. She'd had a terrible day at work. Maybe the boss had troubled her, or she didn't achieve some goals that were set. And she said, "Ed, today I don't want to exercise. I just want to go for a walk. Is that okay?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And we went for a walk. I just listened to her. She told me, and she downloaded everything about her day. And we got back to the stretching area and did a little stretch and a shoulder massage. And she said, "Oh my goodness, Ed, I feel so wonderful today." And it was nothing to do with the exercise. It was that most people, I believe, are starving for somebody to listen unconditionally and allow them to organize their thoughts through speaking. We're always carrying thoughts in our minds, but sometimes it's so messy in our minds. But when we have a chance to just say it out loud and someone's there listening, really, then we're throwing all of the ideas out there and we're able to organize them and usually find the solutions and find the positivity and the answers out of them as well. And that's been the most rewarding part of my career. And when I first met Chuck last year, more than a year ago, that was something we kind of connected on. Chuck comes from a corporate background. I come from a business background. But there was something that connected us, which was our understanding of the beauty of people. And when we're working with people in business, when we're selling products, whatever we may be doing, if you can put all of that aside and understand every person I'm spending time with has got something that they have a need they would like to express. Everyone's got their own challenges they're facing. And most people just want someone to listen to. And when it comes to business, obviously some of the topics we talk about is about business. In business, one of the easiest ways to be noticed and build a wonderful reputation in business, whatever you're doing, is people have a high opinion of you because you are somebody who cares. You know, even let's say, honestly, there's been times in my life when I've worked for different companies and I've had bosses that put targets for you to achieve. But I would always put that second to showing my customers that I'm caring about them first. I'm caring about their families, their homes, their relationships, their business, their safety, security feeling. That's what I'm prioritizing. And then, by the way, you know, we may have something that helps you in business as well. Ken, when you started talking today, at one moment you said the word light. And Chuck, I don't know if you noticed, at that exact moment when you said the word light, a stream of sunlight came down your face and it stayed there for quite a few minutes. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. Here is this gentleman sharing and expressing his love. And at the same time, the universe is shining through him as well. Just wanted you to know that when you watch this episode back, you'll see. And it's, oh my goodness, so profound at that exact moment. And then Ken, I wanted to just segue into a little bit of a side topic. Through your journey, you mentioned a few times about your wife, your partner, your family. How important has your relationship and finding the right person in your life been for you to be able to have this wonderful, beautiful life that you have? And tell us about your wife.
Okay. Well, I just celebrated last weekend. March 31st was our 36th wedding anniversary.
Congrats. That's amazing.
So lucky. I'm so lucky. I have so much to be grateful for. I have a 27-year-old daughter. She just turned 28. I have a 32-year-old daughter, and I have a 37-year-old daughter. All of them have smoked DMT, and everybody's on their own path. This isn't their journey. That's not their journey. My middle daughter, she said when she journeyed, they told her, "You're not ready. Work on yourself. Work on yourself." My wife, she tried it. People are fearful. People are so afraid of these medicines, and that's ego. Ego has always run your show. Up until that point, you're in control, and that's one of the keys to ayahuasca. And I guarantee you, Chuck knows about this one right here. Is if you're ayahuasca is a beautiful medicine. DMT is a little bit. You smoke DMT, it's 15 minutes. Anybody can fight that experience for 15 minutes. You can fight anything for 15 minutes. Ayahuasca is 2 hours, 3 hours long at some point. And the good thing about ayahuasca is that I see two kinds of people. There's when you smoke DMT, they can either there's the ones that can let go and surrender, and the ones that can't. And the ones that can't surrender and let go, they will never break through. Ayahuasca, on the other hand, has this beautiful thing in that it makes you get sick, right? It makes you get nauseous and violently throwing up in this bucket, right? And at some point in that journey, your ego says, fuck this. I give. I quit. I give. And as soon as you say that, the beauty of that journey begins. It's you trying to control everything that makes it hard. Back to my wife. So my family and all that, they have all been behind me 100%. They support me in everything I do. My wife's right there with me. She understands the same things. We've done mushroom journeys together. Mushroom journeys can be very, very similar to ayahuasca. If you take enough, Terence McKenna says 5 grams is a heroic dose, and you take enough and you'll have a very, very, very ayahuasca-like experience. So maybe not with the nauseousness as much, but it gives you a very, very similar. So my wife, one time, we wanted to do this heroic dose, right? And this is too funny, this story. She tells me, she said, my throat is hurting so bad. We took 8 grams, right? And her throat is like, she's saying, my throat hurts so bad. I am so thirsty. She said, I think we're dead. I think the paramedics came in here and they've been working on, they put a toad down my throat. And now it's hurt. I need some water. And I give her water and she goes, and set it down. She just takes a little bitty sip off the water. And I'm saying, no, baby, that didn't happen. I don't know. We're okay. We're fine. What are you talking about? So I'm as blind as a bat, man. I am blind. I can't see if I am blind. So I'm telling her, no, none of this happened. None of that happened. And I get up and I go to the bathroom. I'm standing there in the bathroom doing my thing. And I look down on the ground next to the toilet. You know those green neoprene kind of gloves that the paramedics and stuff wear? They got that funny green color to them. I didn't have my glasses on. I looked down on the floor, and goddamn, there was some damn green gloves sitting there. And I said, holy shit. I said, they were here. They came. And she's saying, we're dead. We've gone too far. We're never going back. And I'm saying, no, I don't think that's. Look, I go in, I try to turn on the TV, and the damn TV, the controls, I can't see the damn controls anymore. I can't see what button I'm pushing, but I can't get any response. And I start thinking to myself, oh shit, maybe I am dead and I can't interact with the physical world. And then, wow. And so I start calling people on my cell phone. Nobody picks up. Nobody picks up. Nobody picks up. And finally, I call the guy that turned me on to DMT the first time, and he picks up, hey, man, what's up? And I said, dude, you are never going to believe why I'm calling you. He said, why? What's up? I said, I'm just calling you to see if I'm still alive. And he says, I'm pretty sure you're still alive. And so I go, we settle down and we're good. We know we're alive now. And I step away and I come back and my wife's on the bed and she is crying her eyes out. She is bawling. And I said, oh, baby, what's the matter? What's wrong? And she says, no, it's okay. They're fixing me. And she said after that, she said that there was a lady there that was in blue neon lights. And she said to her, don't you see? You are the light. Changed my life. That changed my life. And that was years after I had done ayahuasca. And DMT. So everybody's on it. I don't try to convince my wife. I don't try to convince anybody. You should do this or you should do that. I don't know what you should do. But there is medicines out there that can help you overcome that sense of egoic identity. And once you break through there, then you are free. You free yourself from the prison of your mind.
Ken, for people who do not have access to this type of assistance, for example, they may not be living in a country where it's available, what techniques can they use to get close to that experience or to understand what that experience is like?
Well, you can get there in many, many ways. It's not one way. There, the shamans and not the shamans, but the gurus from India, the ones, you cross their legs and you sit there and you meditate, and that's the long way around. I think these medicines are just a shortcut to that same damn place. You can get there, but it's very difficult because you're still getting there through the mind. You got to get to that place where the mind is quiet, right? You got to get to that silence in order to do that, because what happens is thoughts just keep coming. The thoughts just keep coming. And Eckhart Tolle says you can think of your thoughts as like a cloud. We can sit and look at that cloud and we can turn that cloud into anything we want, right? Jesus eating pizza, or we can observe it and let it drift off. You don't have to ride. You don't have to stay with it. Let it go. So one technique that I work with people a lot with is, it's Eckhart Tolle taught me this, and he calls it a momentary meditation. We're all going through our day, and those thoughts, we're in some kind of situation, and it's stressful. One thought after another. Thoughts are just thoughts. They don't mean anything until one comes along and you go, yeah, that's it. Yep, that's it. Now it's not just a thought, it's a belief. And now that has power over you. So in this, Tolle says what we have to do is we have to get a break in the stream of thought. right? We have to get a break in that stream of thought. Now, how do you do that? All right. This technique is I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you to listen. And I'm going to ask you to listen like there's a butterfly on the other side of the room and you want to hear those wings flapping, right? So what's going to happen is I'm going to say listen, and you're going to listen intently like you want to hear it. Now, there's going to be maybe a second's going to go by, and your mind is going to say, what? I don't hear anything. Okay? Once you hear the what, you've gone too far. It's that space in between listen and the what. I want you to focus on that. So listen, listen. In that stillness, you find peace. That's who you are. The stillness beneath all the thoughts. That's the same in you as it is in me and Chuck. It's the same in all of life. Just be. We can all get there. You don't have to have the medicines. It does. I believe it's a shortcut, though. I do believe it's a shortcut. Because we're all so busy in this modern life, right? We got so many responsibilities and so many things we have to do, and bills have to be paid, and all these, and and we get so caught up in the drama. And our drama is so believable. Of course it's real, but goddamn, would you have come here and had this journey if it wasn't going to be believable? That's what you came here for. You came here to have that human experience. And that includes all of it. All of it. The greatest joys to the greatest pains and suffering. It's all the human experience. And when you get caught up in the drama of your story, it's real to you. And that's what go to integration, Chuck. That right there is you go to integration and you hear, that's what I see when I hear people telling these stories. I think you was asking me that question. What do I see? I see, even when it's a tragedy. You know, I had a lady tell me one time that she was going to Soul Quest and it was on a Friday afternoon. She set her handgun on her kitchen counter. And she said, if ayahuasca didn't work, she got home, she was going to take her. She's alive today and she's well and she's happy. The story, it's the story, it's the story, it's the story. And we all have to be reminded. And that's what our integration is all about, is reminding you of the story and that you can change your story.
Chuck, how does that resonate with you? Because now you've attended some of the integration classes.
It's like a beautiful AA meeting. I've never been to AA, but that's how I would describe it. You've seen AA in movies, and you're like, oh, okay. Everyone talks. And it's kind of like that. It's just, you don't have a time limit. There's no rules. Ken just makes a beautiful space. But go ahead and ask your question. I'm sorry.
Exactly that. I just wanted to know, like, you are someone that was looking for support from somebody like Ken, to help you with your journey and your integration. So I guess having a one-on-one tonight or today with Ken has been wonderful for you as well, to be able to go far, far deeper than what you would maybe typically in a group meeting.
You know what? A lot of this stuff that Ken has said today, beautiful information. I've heard him say in almost every session. And the group sessions are, no offense to Ken, and I know he won't take it this way, but they're even better because you get the stories that you can relate to from everybody else, and they're just sharing their shit, and you get to participate
See yourself in their shit.
Exactly, and participate in the answers to that shit almost, right? And you're like, oh man, that's answers for me too. So look, if you're looking for it, we're going to put the link down. If you're okay with that, Ken, we're going to put the link in the comments. It's there. It's every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join. There's no one judging you there. But how has it helped me? Maybe it was your question, Ed. I felt like before ayahuasca that nothing that I have been trying to achieve in my life, health-wise, work-wise, outside of my beautiful relationship with my wife and my kids, has not gone the way I wanted it to go. And how has this helped me? Well, I realized it doesn't matter how I want it to go. It's going. And the fact that it's going is beautiful in itself. And I don't need to force the timeline. I don't need to change anything that has happened. I don't need to change anything that will happen. So just that piece of, I think you just described it earlier, Ken, it's It's right here. The fact that I'm able to understand it that way gives me so much peace. And now, today, because it's all about today, but today and tomorrow, I'm not going to be, why hasn't it happened yet? In that flight or fight mode, which was causing so much stress in my life that sometimes I didn't even realize it. I could be in the flow of getting shit done, and I was in the flow of continued stress mode because shit wasn't getting done, or I didn't think that the shit was getting done as fast as I wanted it to.
There's the key. It wasn't what you thought you wanted. It's the wanting. That's why, you said that, I just got a smile on my face. I want it. I want it. Well, who wanted? Who wanted? Who wanted? Your egoic identity wanted. The soul, the essence of who you are, doesn't want for anything.
Mm-hmm. It's just here to participate in this beautiful life.
Right the right.
And give the
like
experiences
Ken's
back to the source, to the
quote
creator.
before. I want, don't make a shit.
Want, don't make a shit. Scientifically, what we know about these medicines. Okay, so when a baby's born, the baby's not wired to the world. Right? It doesn't know where the world starts and it ends. And then, it looks at his hand and just says, wow, look at that. It don't even, it has no words for it. But a baby, we have to get wired to the physical world. That's what happens through all of our experiences, right? A baby sees a fire for the first time. And yes, I say the same things all the time because it's a simple shit. Our egoic identity tries to make everything complicated, but it's really very, 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 very simple, right? Just be. The baby sees a fire for the first time and it reaches out and it touches a fire. Gets burnt, and a neurological pathway forms from the fingertips to the brain. Fire, hot, don't touch. Well, somewhere along the lane, the baby touches a fire again. Hot shit, ow, burns, don't touch fire. So that particular neurological pathway becomes a superhighway. You can't look at a fire today and think to yourself, oh, that one might be cool. I probably can touch it. I can touch that one. You won't do it. And that's what keeps us alive, right? We can't be learning these lessons over and over again. So these neurological pathways form and they become superhighways, and we can't think outside of the box. What happens is other neurological pathways start to close off. And so we have this pattern condition of thought. We can't think outside that box. That big box becomes our prison. And when we do these medicines, they've done research, hook them up to machines and shit, and the brain, those neurological pathways are firing everywhere. They're all over the place. And so you begin to question your most fundamental beliefs. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I could be wrong. And it's when we begin to question those very fundamental beliefs that we're able to create change in our life.
Ed, you remember me describing how I felt like Rice Krispie treats were crackling in my brain?
Mm-hmm.
That's what was happening. And I've had the feeling, Ken, that people that haven't even done the medicine would really benefit off of being in your integration with love sessions, and certainly join them if you haven't. It's not like, hey, you have to do this passage of right way to get in.
No.
But you will notice, if you are that person that will join and participate for any period of time into Ken's integration with love meetings, that tunnel, that box that you just described, you're going to get a different outcome. You're going to hear things differently before and after, because it's going to hit you in a much different way because you have more neural pathways after the medicine.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, we have integratingwithlove.org is our website. Facebook group, Integrating with Love. Now, Integrating with Love, the Facebook group is a private group, and we do that so people are to protect their privacy. You can talk about things there. The world's kind of hard. A lot of places you talk about earlier, these things are illegal, and people that got their jobs and their bosses can't find out and all that kind of stuff. So our Facebook group is a private group. And we do that to protect people. So you feel free to be able to talk and express yourself without fear. So we invite anybody. There's an old song by the Little River Band. It says, there's so many paths up the mountain. and nobody knows all the ways. So it may not be for everybody. I don't know. I can't say that it's for everybody. I know a lot of people that's benefited greatly from the plant medicine.
Fantastic.
Hey, I would like to read something to you guys that I think hits home in regards to our topic today. Ken, you at one point said, I don't know what enlightenment is, but I've been listening to the conversation with God, and I had to pause it and stop it and write this down, which I find myself doing quite a lot in that book. And it talks about this exact topic. Enlightenment is understanding that there is nowhere to go, nothing to do, and nobody that you have to be except exactly who you are and exactly who you're being right now. You're on a journey to nowhere. Isn't that crazy? Like, I had to stop. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, listen to this. This is amazing. What enlightenment asks you to do is to know something that you have not yet experienced, to know it. Like your story of, this Costa Rica retreat thing, and it has not yet been experienced. That's enlightenment. And Ken, Ed, you had said before, basically, what's the purpose in life? And they nailed it. She nailed it, or whoever God is, nailed it in this conversation with God, because it says the point of life is to create who and what you are and to experience that. That's the point of life. And Ed,
Amazing.
it made me think about you and I, because how much do we feel like we're creating every day now, where we're trying to get helpful messages that are out there, get content for the channel, helpful conversations with prospects and clients and customers. We're creating every day, and that's the point of life. Ken, thank you so much. You warm my heart every single time I hear you talk. You wear your emotions on your sleeves. Yeah, it's beautiful to hear you share your story, and I hope that this brings a lot of peace and joy to people's lives, and that they find your organization, your nonprofit organization, continue to help you and themselves change the lives of others.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Love you.